Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Core Leadership Podcast, where communication meets clarity and conflict becomes the catalyst for growth in your business. I surround myself with inspiring people in the communication and speaking world to help inspire you to think about how communication can be your competitive edge in your business. You as a speaker, you as a leader, that's what we talk about. And I'm very excited today to interview Marty Dickinson, who is inspiring in so many spaces in the speaking world. And I'm excited about what we have and are introducing together. So we're combining forces to be able to provide speakers and leaders out there with a framework to help them grow in their own business. So, Marty, welcome to the podcast. I'm excited to have you here today.
Thanks for having me. Awesome to be talking about something that's going to change the evolution of how speakers get on stage today.
100%. Why don't, before we get into our new revolutionary program and idea, I want to know a little bit more about you. Can you give us your background and tell us about kind of where you came from and what inspired you to get into the speaking and professional communication space?
Well, I am the least likely person you would ever imagine to be on a stage. Honestly, I was so afraid of public speaking for years and years and years until really I was out of college and finally joined a Toastmasters club, turned everything around, and then started using speaking to build my business. And from there, I've built three businesses now, almost entirely through speaking and writing, and a combination of that with internet marketing. But speaking for forever has been the best lead generator for any business. So now I've really dedicated a large portion of my time and my life and my mission to inspiring others who are owners of businesses to start using speaking to build their business because it's worked so well for so many over the years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Tell me about what was the inspiration moment that inspired you to start speaking? Because it's not from my own personal experience, I've always been comfortable in front of an audience. I always love speaking. Just now getting into the more professional speaking side of things the last couple of years, but it's not something that you immediately think about. So, what inspired you to step into that kind of fearful space to start inspire other people to do the same thing?
Well, the inspiration, it wasn't inspiration, it was pure force. When I got my first job out of college, I was brought into the vice president of development, right into his office. He's the guy that hired me. He says, "Welcome to the company. You have 4 months to put together a presentation. That's plenty of time, but I want you to represent our company instead of me flying to Atlanta, Georgia. And we want you to represent our company and give a 45-minute talk about what we do here. It's not going to be a lot of people or anything, but it'll be a good experience for you." I thought he was talking about maybe 10 people around a conference table, but when I looked into it, it was actually a conference with 600 people from all over the country. So I purely panicked. My wife had just gone to her first couple of Toastmasters meetings and joined, and she suggested that I join that club. And so we worked on that together in Toastmasters for the next 4 months. So that inspired me to take the next step. But what happened next was absolutely horrifying because when I got to this conference, it was a multi-day conference, and I was one of the last speakers on the last day. And the night before, I realized we ended the conference at like 9 o'clock at night, and everything that I had spent all that time preparing with slides and everything was already covered at least 4 or 5 times. And I mean, what would you do? I went to the bar. So I sat there at the
That's
bar.
where
I
all the
sat there.
magic happens.
Exactly, exactly. I just kind of sat there perplexed for about 5 minutes, and then I started reorganizing my speech, and it was getting late, right? So I knew number one, I had to go back and rearrange some slides in my room, and then get a good night's sleep. So I had another cocktail to make sure I'd have a good night's sleep. But the point is that I went in there, and even with all those changes, I just rocked it. I really did. And I was surprised when people came up to me afterwards and said how much they appreciated me covering new material that hadn't been heard yet from the inside of this company. And they just really appreciated that. And that was what gave me the nudge that I had something to offer from stage, and that set me on the course.
To go from being fearful and to having anxiety about it and then to have a triumph like that, that's something that's pretty inspirational. And I think it's also a story that's really important for other speakers to hear, that it's normal to have that feeling. And yes, there is anxiety around it. And sometimes we get anxiety and then we don't take that step. But then once you step on stage, and it to me it sounds like your authenticity just kind of came into it, and just that core knowledge that you have, that core genius that you have, that you already knew, but then you had to just frame it in a different way to be able to make it different than what you'd already heard. And I think that's something that's part of the magic of speaking, is that it's you and it's your charisma and it's your unique perspective on things, and it's you showing up authentically, and that's what is so empowering. So that's a great story.
That's all true. There's one more additional component, though. If you really want to start using speaking to build your business, it needs to become part of you. Speaking itself needs to become part of you because yeah, I was in Toastmasters for another 6 years before I got to the point where I actually started seeking stages where on purpose I wanted to get in front of groups. There's a total difference between being forced into speaking
Right.
and even giving a competent performance but then wanting to do it. Those are completely different aspects of speaking. So you need to really dive in and have good leadership and guidance and mentorship, all those pieces together, so that one day, maybe just one day, and it's different for everybody. Maybe you as a listener are thinking, well, yeah, I love to be on stages. This is what I always wanted to do. Well, that's great, but most speakers you would be surprised to find are introverts. They get on stage and the hat gets turned around, and just for that brief amount of time, they get to be a superhero on stage. And you look at them and say, "Woo, I could never do that. That person is so outgoing and energetic and all of that." But it's short term, and they've really worked on those skills to get there. And even more important, it's taken a long time to enjoy that moment. And I believe that is what needs to happen with us as business owners, is that we have to get to the point where we seek out those opportunities like this. We're in a podcast right now on purpose. We have put this together as an event that we can give ideas out there. You have to want to be on
Mhm.
podcasts, to take that time and to invest in providing that top quality for your listeners in any audience that you're speaking in front of. There has to, and that comes from the heart. I mean, I don't know what other motivation can really bring someone to want to do that on a consistent basis other than becoming a real a heart-centered person providing a service and wanting to see lives transform. To go into it saying, "Oh, I'm going to go just make a bunch of money in speaking," is totally a self-defeating prospect there.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's got to be from a servant standpoint. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's almost that as a speaker, and myself, I love speaking. I love being in front of an audience. I'm not an introvert, so I don't fall into that category. But I think so much when you say that, that we have a performance self. We perform as a business owner, we perform as a speaker, and that's a different personality than our business self or our authentic self. And when they can kind of combine and show up together, that's when that I think it's the most authentic. And I think that's when you really harness your internal charisma to be able to make the biggest impact on your audience. So, but
Call
it's,
it a speaker personality. I mean, you have your
yeah,
normal personality, but then what is that speaker personality inside you that's wanting to come out? And it's not a different person. It's
no.
still you. It's just aspects of your personality get elevated. And that's where people come up to you and say, "Oh, you're such a natural speaker." And what? Where does that even come
Been
from? But
working on that for about 10 years, but you know.
once you start recognizing that speaker personality, that's where you build your skills on, your speaking skills, and that's what evolves through time. So that's it's just fun to watch. I love watching people start out in a place where they have absolutely no confidence, and I mean, I hear from people. I meet a lot of speakers because of the events that I'm involved with, and I'm always talking to new speakers, and the question is always the same. How do you get to the point of having confidence when you get out there on stage, and how do you know if you have a topic that anybody wants to know about? We just have so much lack of confidence in ourselves that it just takes a while, and then you get the recognition from the audience and people coming up after you speak and saying, I mean, with tears in their eyes, I can't believe you helped me save my business in the last 20 minutes. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a full hour or a 6 hour workshop that you do. I mean, it can take just literally a matter of minutes for you to connect with somebody in your audience and change a life. And in some cases, even save a life. And that's where things get really interesting in the speaking business.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the business of speaking, because you have quite a few different ventures, and our ventures are aligning, and we'll talk about that. But I want to talk about you and your business and because you work with speakers, but you also work with business owners that use speaking. So can you talk a little bit about that and your approach in that space?
Yeah, well, I've been in business for almost 30 years now, and I started using speaking a long time ago when I first started my very first website, in fact, in 1996. And I found the best way to promote that website was to get on stages and tell people about it. That was even before Google. So I had to give out my domain name and say, go to this website, check it out. So that just became real habit for me, and eventually from those audiences people would hire me to come in and speak. And then I'd get asked about workshops. When do you have a workshop starting? And then I started creating my own events. I mean, there are all kinds of ways to get involved with speaking. It can go so many different directions: paid, unpaid, creating your own multi-day event even. I mean, there's all kinds of aspects to speaking that you learn about step by step by step. So one of the very first things that I learned about the speaking business is that it is a business.
Mhm.
That very first
Absolutely.
website that I started in 1996 serviced musicians, hence the guitar. It reminds me every day of where everything started when I started my very first business. And I learned something about musicians, that they don't want to know anything about the business. They're just like, get me on stage, man. I just want to jam. Well,
Yep.
that's just the same thing with speakers too. Speakers really don't want to be involved with the promotional aspects of the business. They just want to get up there and do their keynote or give the workshop and show up at the event. If they can just get rid of all that other stuff and just speak every day, they would be just fine getting up on stage. So that was one of the most important things I learned, and I learned all that through National Speakers Association. I joined that organization a long time ago through my local chapter here in Colorado, and that was in 2004 when I joined. And I realized that if you want to be in the speaking business, you've got to hang around other speakers that are using speaking to build their business. And it could be just speaking itself is their business. There's lots of different tracks in this. So, and it might not even be speaking. It could be serving as MC or facilitator or being a podcast host. There are lots of avenues when we say this really broad term, speaking.
Yeah.
So I think that was really important for me to learn, that you need to hang around those people, and you can look at any really successful speaker and reverse engineer who they know and see all the contacts that they've built lifelong relationships with. And you think, well, of course they're successful in the speaking world. They know this person, this person, this person. Yeah, it's just the nature of the whole public speaking world is that you need to associate yourself with other speakers to make it happen.
Absolutely. I think that's been one of the most important lessons that I've learned this year. I'm in Montana, so I'm on a little bit of an island. There's no NSA up here, and we're creating this speaker community up here with the Cadence Speaker Academy. And it's great to do that internally, but then to connect to the larger world of speaking and coming down to the NSA meeting in Colorado, that was something that was really eye-opening for me. And I'm excited to join you this year at the National NSA convention down in Phoenix in July. But that it's true. You have to be around other speakers. I say the same thing, but I came from academia, and so in academics, you've got to go to tournaments and be at conferences and be around other speakers to improve your speaking. And it's a whole different ball game here. And I think it's just really exciting to learn more about that. So I appreciate all the direction. And if you need any direction as far as getting into the business of speaking, Marty is the person to go to for sure.
Yeah, and I'll just put an invitation out there too. I mean, I realized how important it was not only for us to hang around speakers, but we really need to see each other speak. We need
Absolutely.
to provide each other with support. And if we hear them speak and we see something that just really lacks clarity, we need to be the ones to say, hey, Shelby, that really didn't make a lot of sense. You need to reorganize that. I'm telling you, if you got in front of one of my audiences and you said that, they'd be walking out the door because they wouldn't get it. We need to be able to have that comfort zone, that area, that space that we can provide that kind of supportive feedback. And that's why I created Speakers Speak Live, which is a weekly program for professional speakers and people who are right on the bridge to getting into speaking to build their business, where you get 10 minutes to showcase 10 minutes of your content, whatever that is. And then we sit around and give constructive support for that presentation. And that's what it was designed for. We're now in our 5th year. We have people from all over the US and Canada and 4 other countries that attend this. And we just rotate roles as well. So it's a community driven event. It's not the Marty show. There's no charge to attend or participate. We needed that forum so that we could come together every week and support each other as speakers.
Absolutely. And I'll say, having attended it for the past couple of months, it's something that it's a great place to meet people and to be around, surround yourself with other great speakers and people that are emerging in the speaking business. And I think it's a wonderful space to be able to I think it is so critically important to have a place to practice and to have a place where you have that constructive feedback. That's such an important part of communication in general is I mean, as a speaker, it's a little anxiety provoking to open yourself to feedback, but having a space where that feedback can happen is so important. So I'm all in for Speaker Speak Live. I hope our audience comes to Speaker Speak Live. I'll make sure that that's included in the show notes because that's a great place to meet speakers and to really understand or at least start to be aware about the business of speaking or how to use speaking in your own business. So,
Well, you have to be really careful. I mean, if you're a growing speaker, you have probably been introduced to a professional speaker coach where you've actually paid money to get assistance creating your amazing keynote, your multi-million dollar speech that you're going to take out to the world. And that's great. I think every speaker, no matter how good you think you are, you should be hiring a speaker coach to help you, at least at some
absolutely.
point. Most of the people I know have 5, 6, 7 coaches over a lifetime of speaking. So, but because of that, you have to be really careful who walks up to you after you've given a speech and say, well, I don't know why you told that story here. You should move this over here and this over here. Who are you? Why are you telling me this? I mean, you really have to be careful of that, especially if you're investing in a coach. With Speaker Speak Live, if you have 25 or 30 people saying, hey, that second point you talked about, that really didn't make sense. You really need to clear that up. Well, these are speakers out there that are they're on stages, so they know
Mhm.
what makes sense and what doesn't, and they've had coaches too. So you really kind of have to pay attention to that. So that's why we keep Speaker Speak Live very private. There are no web designers in there that are trying to poach everybody. It's you have to be a speaker. And I go vet everybody to make sure that is the case. We don't put it out on YouTube. It's very secluded so you can try new things, fall on your face, try new technology, try Ecamm and OBS and all that. And if it doesn't work, we'll still support you. And it's a lot better to make the mistakes there than when you're getting paid $10,000 out there to give a
Absolutely.
presentation and then have things go south.
Absolutely. But there is a few steps in between Speaker Speak Live and between the paid speaking. So can you talk about that?
Yeah, well, one of the great things that I almost forgot to say is that once we have seen you speak, then we can refer you to
Mhm.
stages that we have been speaking on. And that can also include podcasts and summits and in-person and virtual paid events even. So just to kind of throw that bone out there that once you have other speakers seeing you speak, that's when referrals come your way. And I always say the gold is in your audience. So whoever you're speaking to, that's what you need to nurture and get all kinds of testimonials from and recommendations and follow up with people in the audience because every person in every audience has at least one person they know that they could refer you to be on a stage. All you have to do is dig it out of them. We all have these giant Rolodex in our brains and LinkedIn and Facebook and all of those. You just have to provide the message and the invitation for you to be referred to those stages. And that's where paid speaking comes into play because once you get referred, then you're going to get calls, you're going to get emails. While you're doing your outreach, it goes both ways. You start making more of a presence on social media and just getting on more stages and the domino effect begins, the momentum begins, and you just ride the wave once that momentum happens. And that is why I wrote the book Lions Always Win: How to Spot What You Want in Your Professional Speaking Business and Life and Get It Too, because just like this guitar up here, the speaking business can quickly turn into a rock star type of environment where you're traveling all the time and you're not healthy doing it and it's too soon for you, you're not ready for it. There needs to be a balance in your life. I mean, I know so many speakers that really ramped up very quickly and they wound up getting divorced, they wound up getting sick, they wound up getting discouraged and burned out. So there needs to be a balance in your plan as you go forward in the speaking business. I don't want anybody having a difficult life because they became successful as a speaker. Really? No, it's supposed to be an amazing time when you're changing the lives of your audience, but there has to be that balance as well.
I think that's absolutely important to remember for the speaker. But I think there's one thing that you said that I think is so important as we step into speaking in front of more audiences and influencing more people. It's not about you, it's about the audience. And I think that's something that definitely resonates in all this discussion about it's all about transforming the audience. And I think that's why you and I get along so well because that's what we that's what we inspire our speakers to do because it is about you and your story, but it's more about your audience and the impact that you're making on your audience.
Right.
We try to speed that up a little bit in the Cadence Speaker Academy, get you in front of more audiences and get you branded and getting all that put together. But I think that mindset and that piece is such an important part of it is that it's not about me and it's not about the money that I make. It's about my audience and the impact that I want to make.
That's right. That's right. And that's one thing that just drives me crazy about so many programs I see. I mean, if you're in the speaking business, you're going to get hammered on Facebook with all kinds of promotions coming up on your feed. And the one that drives me nuts is share your story with the world and make $1 million. I mean, it's just unless you're a celebrity, your story really does not matter as much as you think it does to your audience. They
Right.
don't care. All they're doing is listening to your story, waiting for the one moment you give your point at the end and tell them what it is that they can walk out of the room with that they can apply to their own lives. So the way it's properly coached is to use your story to allow the audience to become part of your story. And only when they do that are they going to be receptive to the point of the story, to the message of the story, to the learning point of why you're even using that story to share with them. But to simply go up and talk for an hour about your big story, I mean, people are on their cell phones, they're checking email, they're walking out in the hall.
Yeah.
I mean, that is not engagement. The people are digesting content from speakers much differently than before COVID, even much differently than 2 years ago. So it's really important to stay up to date with techniques that are being used now in the moment, not 10, 15, 20 years ago, to
Absolutely.
keep your audiences engaged. So again, if this is going to be a business for you, which speaking is, it could be just a hobby. You want to get on stage one or two times a year, that's fine. That's just a hobby. But if this really becomes part of your business, then you definitely need to take steps to remain current and to be professional. I mean, this is a professional speaking business. There are ways to do that, but the first step is really mentally. I mean, you've got to commit to yourself. Yes, I am going to be part of this. I'm going to learn everything there is to do with the business because not only like I was talking about before, speaking itself has to become part of you, but the business side needs to become part of you as well, so that you're going to bed every night thinking, who can I contact tomorrow to get on another stage? And you wake up in the morning, you don't just have a lie-in for another 30 minutes. No, you're launching out of bed because you can't wait to talk to the next person about you getting on stage again so that you can transform another audience. I mean, that's the mentality that all speakers that I know that are really successful in this business and have been for a long time, they are still supercharged to get in front of that next audience. That's what the speaking business is all about. It has to become part of
Absolutely.
your soul.
Part of your soul. That's a great space to start the. What are your recommendations to speakers out there that how can they make it a part of their soul? How can they, in this new age of speakers connecting with audiences, and we'll talk about our services intertwined with this, but it's how what do you think are the new methods, or what did speakers out there need to be aware about in this new age in 2025 post COVID? There's a lot of competition to get on stage. There's a lot of speakers that want to take those spots. So what is your recommendation to speakers about how to stand out and how to market themselves? What would you recommend?
Sure. Well, there's another trend in training out there, and that is to go from 0 to 20,000 in front of 2,000 people. And I really recommend thinking twice about that, at least for most people. I mean, you, Shelby, you probably are the kind of person that could have just jumped out there your very first time on stage in front of thousands of people and just crush it. With me, if I did that, if that was me, I would have crawled into a hole and you'd never see me again. So my challenge is for most people out there to get started in this business. You ever hear of the game croquet? Remember croquet from
Hmm.
when we were kids? You had to hit the with the mallet and the ball, and you had these wickets that you go through, and you go around the
Yep.
yard. I suggest going through the wickets. You can't win the game until you go through all the wickets. So start where you are and hey, a mentor to me a long time ago told me when I asked the question, I said, so how do you actually become one of these speaker people, these professional speakers? And that person, his name was Joe Saba. Joe Saba was the co-founder of National Speakers Association, the Colorado chapter. He got in my face, literally. I mean, the guy was almost, in his late 70s anyway, and he started shaking when he talked to me, and he says, you speak. Speakers speak. You want to be a professional speaker, you got to get dates in your calendar. Don't wait for a website. Don't LinkedIn all day. Don't Facebook all day. Don't YouTube all day. Just get speaking. And he's so right because there are so many opportunities where anyone right now, really, edit that out, please. Why? Why would that even happen? Turn that off.
I didn't hear it.
All right, so now I need to say that again. Goodness. Ask me the question again.
What are your recommendations about you were talking about speaking and how you just need to go speak and be and do that every day. It's how to be recognizable and how to position yourself as a speaker in 2025. What are some new trends that you are discovering?
So a long time ago, a mentor told me his name was Joe Saba. He was the co-founder of the NSA, National Speakers Association Colorado chapter. I asked Joe that very question. So how do I get speaking? And he got in my face and he literally said, "You speak. Speakers speak." They don't Facebook, they don't LinkedIn, they don't Twitter, they speak. So spend your time finding places to get speaking. Don't worry about having all the pieces together before you start, like a website and a one sheet and all the things that we need to spend money on to do. Those all come. Those all happen. But chances are you don't even know what your topic is yet. But your audience will tell you if you start speaking at low level places, you can get on stages. There's no charge for a lot of places out there. I'll give you a couple of examples. 1 million cups. If you go to
Mhm.
1millioncups.com, there are locations all over the country where you can apply today to be on their stage. You'll get 5 minutes of time to present your new company, and then you'll get 10 to 15 minutes of feedback from the audience in person for whatever it is your speaking topic is that you think you're going to go out and you're going to start this business. I'm going to start speaking. They'll give you all this great feedback. But you're on stage for that 5 minutes. There is all likelihood that someone in that audience will say, "Hey, that's really a great topic. Would you come speak at my chapter, my association chapter meeting or a company meeting we're having?" It all, the gold is in your audience again. So it all leads to that. And another one is disrupt HR. That's a really popular one that's growing across the country. And you go in there, same thing, 5 minutes of a presentation, and you've got a bunch of people in the audience that hire speakers. So you can get in these locations and just start speaking and let your topic evolve. Your audience will tell you what they want. So there's a start to it. How's that?
That's a good start. And you just have to start and your brand will develop. I think that's the business around it is the next step around that, but just speaking and getting recognized and getting invited and being on stage, then you can start to build your assets and put your things together to be able to build your business around it. So that's at least a good place to start. What would be your recommendation? And maybe we can now talk about the speaker match service about the business of speaking. So what would be a recommendation that you would have to somebody that's really looking to use speaking as a part of their business or to build a business of speaking? What would you say about that?
Well, I'm going to suggest something that I've never been able to say before until today. And that is that you need to offload all of the front end work before you get on stage. You have to find somebody. It could be a virtual assistant, it could be a partner, it could be a company. There has to be somebody that you invest with. Again, this is your business. You're going to have to invest in a few things. You're going to need to invest in someone to find the places that you want to get on stages for and at least do the front end work of communicating with those people because the numbers have changed. It used to be, I'm just going to throw out an example here. I don't have an actual statistic for this, but imagine that at one time it took you 10 people to talk to before you'd get brought in and say, okay, we got a contract, let's bring you on stage. Well, now that number is like 200. I
Mhm.
mean, that's how
It is.
much of a change it's been because there's so many speakers that are out there that are applying for those same stages. And there are a lot of opportunities out there, but the number one thing is you need to figure out who your audience is and then bring someone in that understands your program and understands the audience and understands our culture of where we live so that they can effectively promote you and procure those speaking opportunities for you. And then, of course, you're going to come in the decision making process, the negotiation process, because they might say, oh, sure, well, we want to have you come in and speak, but we'd like to have you do a keynote in the morning and then a 3 hour workshop. How much will you charge for that? Well, there needs to be negotiation that happens there. The speaker has to be involved at that point, but it's this whole front end part that I would have normally said, yeah, I'm a big fan of Lois Kramer, and she's the one that convinced me about this, where she would say, Marty, the one thing that you need to do in the whole process of the speaking business is the sales process. You need to be your own salesperson. I am fully in agreement with that. And matter of fact, I love researching places that I should speak and really vetting those places before I make even any contact at all. But for most people, they don't do that at all. So if you're the
Right.
kind of person that you don't like to make phone calls, you're never going to send an email to anybody, and you're never going to research on LinkedIn and make connections with people, if that's not you, you're not going to get very far in the speaking business. So the part that I can announce now is that I can finally suggest a place to go for that help. And I have not been able to do this for years. I've been searching high and low throughout National Speakers Association. People who have people working for them and doing this procuring work are very secretive about the people that they've brought in and trained, and now they're really good at what they do. And chances are good that that person can only handle 4 or 5 clients. And
Mhm.
capacity. That's the problem. You get somebody who can do this work really well, but then all of a sudden they get really busy and they might suddenly become too busy for you, even
Right.
if you're the one that trained the person. So that's been sort of the running challenge that we've had with this spot between you being able to speak and getting on the actual stages is finding those speaking opportunities. But now with Cadence and Speaker Match, that problem goes away. So, Shelby, can I turn this back to you and have you describe this amazing program?
Yes, and this is, of course, where our programs synergize a little bit. I love the description about you being the thumb in the back and getting people on stage and helping people get over that and capture that new mindset. And what we can do at Cadence is help get you branded and help get you on stage. It's a process. It's something that you've got to show up on your own social media, your own LinkedIn, even in your own speaking when you go speak at 1 Million Cups or your local entrepreneur day, whatever that is. You've got to have your brand pretty well consistent and your message consistent and an offer on the back end. So we help with the business of speaking. And in addition to helping position you in a place where you can make more money be a paid speaker or have an opportunity to have an offer on the back end of it. When we look at those opportunities, we help procure those for you. We're a part of the negotiation process. I'm excited to get into the bureau business where we start representing our clients to be able to be in speaker bureaus. I think that's going to be really exciting. But there's a whole back end business piece of speaking. And we're in the event space too, where we're hosting conferences and we have spaces for people to speak. And those are exciting places to be. So that's where Cadence fits into that, where we can help be the business on the back end and help get speakers on stages and podcasts and places where they can be seen and more visible. So It
Now,
is exciting.
when I met you originally and you were putting all this together, I mean, you were already working with clients.
Right.
You didn't really have the formality of the name, the sequence, but you were doing this work already. And when I asked about it, I asked, well, so where are you farming this out to? Is it the Philippines or, some other country? Because I'm just used to that.
Right.
And you said to me, well, no, we have some of our team here in Montana and we have some of our team in Vail, Colorado. Vail, Colorado. Well, that's where I'm at. I'm in Colorado, Vail, Colorado. So, what are the chances of me meeting some of your team? I'd love to meet with them and talk with them. And so we've gone out to lunch a couple of times now, and they came down from Vail to our NSA Colorado chapter meeting last month, which was awesome for them to invest in seeing and meeting people here in Colorado. Now you're getting involved with NSA on a national level. I mean, if you're listening to this, I hope you're seeing how this is building. I mean, we have a U.S. team that is right here waiting to get you on stages in the U.S. That's what we've been looking for years and years to have an established company. I mean, Shelby didn't just start in business like last week. You've been in business for how many years, Shelby?
I have been in business for about 6 years independently, but my team came from the class that I taught in college. I've been teaching communication for 20 years around the world in a college debate team and in the classroom and teaching about business communication. And my team comes from my business communication class. They know the process. They know the communication pieces that are so important to brand and so important to connecting with your audience. And I handpicked them out of class, and they are excellent representatives and very well spoken. And they are great representatives for our clients as we get them on more stages. So I'm thrilled to have an amazing team together. Melanie is my business partner here in Montana, starting a chapter up here, hosting conferences here, but also aligning with our business partners in Colorado, with you at the NSA Colorado, and with Achieve. And so many different opportunities are coming together under this roof of this amazing speaker match system that we're putting together.
Oh, yeah. And so you also mentioned achieve in that sentence. So we've
Mhm.
started something new and we've only been at this for 4 months. We're here in June, so we're about to have our fifth show of what's called Achieve Speakers Live. What we did is we took a piece of Speaker Speak Live, which is a private event, very highly vetted, speakers only, and we took the showcase component and we brought that over to Achieve, the fastest growing business growth community right now in the world. And
Mhm.
we have used their backing to create a monthly event called Achieve Speakers Live, where right now 5 speakers are showcasing 10 minutes in a public setting. So it's all on Zoom, but we live stream that program and push it out to the world. People are sharing the live stream. We make YouTube videos out of that. So there are 10-minute showcases of all these speakers on a YouTube channel. And this is exactly what people who are looking for speakers want to see. They want to see that you can hold an audience for 10 minutes because they figure if you can hold an audience for 10 minutes, then you can come speak at my event and keep that audience engaged. That's what we're trying to demonstrate. And with Achieve Speakers Live, that is our vehicle for doing it. So that is something that you can watch. There's no charge for it. You can join in the live Zoom room. If you go to achievespeakerslive.com and register, then we'll invite you into the Zoom room. And that is how you get introduced to this amazing family, this amazing community. And Shelby is going to be able to use those 10-minute showcases in her promotions of speakers with Cadence and Speaker Match. So again, we're creating a whole new evolution here of how speakers get hired for stages. And I'm just a little excited about it, Shelby.
I am also thrilled about it, and I was thrilled to be a part of Achieve Speakers Live just last week and or week or two ago, and it's a really great community. I'm excited to officially announce all of those things, and we'll be sure that all of those links are included in the show notes so people can follow along when they when they're ready. Because you should, if you want to speak, you should be involved with these things right now. So that's what we should do.
Great. Well, I'd like to offer a special gift to everyone that is a recap of some of the points that we've talked about here. You can see it on my screen if you're watching this on YouTube. TakeActionNow.biz, where I give you my 6 steps for, here's my mascot. His name is Action. One day I was watching all these speakers getting up on stage saying, you got to take action, got to take action, got to take action. I was like, who is this action person and why should I take him anywhere? So I simply took the cover off of my book and I set a name to a face or a face to a name, and I've been using that as my mascot ever since. When you find yourself just procrastinating, remember that face and take action. Action also has his own money. He's on my
Nice.
$1 million bills. So I suggest to my clients to put this right on their computer and remind them of that very thing every single day. I'll get you introduced to the 6-step action process where you can just, any company would be able to go right into that sequence and find where you are and plug in. It works for any business, no matter large or small. 6 steps to grow your business with the action method. So there's my gift to you. Go to takeactionnow.biz and let's get you started.
It's what we got to do. Just get us started. Marty, thank you for coming on the podcast today and giving us all these great pearls of wisdom. Can you tell us what's up in this next week for you?
The
Speaker
next
Speak
week,
Live is tomorrow, right?
yeah, Speaker Speak Live is starting, I mean, every week, every Wednesday for 1 hour. We meet at speakerspeaklive.com. So go there and register. There's no charge to attend, no charge to participate. There never was, there never will be. That is my criteria for the program. I didn't want there to be any barrier to entry. So come be a fly in the wall and see how it works, and then get on the schedule to give your 10-minute showcase and get support from speakers around the world.
And I'm thrilled to be a part of this official announcement of the speaker match system and this whole new way that we are getting speakers to be more visible and to get your message out, because it really is about your audience and how we can make an impact with more people. So thrilled that you were here today to talk about that.
All right. Go change some lives, everybody.
Absolutely. And to all you speakers and people, business owners that are interested in discussing more about how communication and speaking can be your competitive edge, reach out to me, to Marty. We'll put everything in the show notes and we'll be sure to help you transform more lives in your business and with your clients with speaking and communication. We will see you next time.